Welcome to the Art Galaxy. I am working on a Dutch master style painting of a young woman who is Dutch, from what I understand. And I am doing an acrylic that is mimicking what was done in oil in the 16th century. I've done some Vermeers and Schwerts and Rembrandts, and now I thought what we could do is update it to the 21st century. Pardon me. So that's what we've been working on. And I'm doing it in the same style. The difference is that they worked in oil, which I also work in, by the way. But the challenge here is to get it to work in acrylic. So if you're an acrylic painter, this is probably interesting to you, in that I'm going step by step in order to show you how it's done. And it's lots of fun, and more ways than one. Unlike oil that you can blend and get subtle tones put in basically as you paint, and then when you're finished and it's dried, you can glaze the colors up any way you want. You basically have to work completely opposite in acrylic. In other words, you need to get your base tones down and then glaze on top of them. And the glazing is what makes the skin look translucent, etc. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Now, it is, in terms of painting, it's more labor intensive, because you have to juggle tones all over the painting in order that you, well, to make it work, frankly. And so you've got to make sure your tones are right on and close, and one doesn't overtake another, and your shadowing's good. I have started this off grisaille, simply meaning that for me, grisaille is simply a French term for painting it under a gray, and it's not quite correct. It's really a gray with a green tinge to it, and the reason it has a slightly greenish blue tinge to it is if you just look at the back of your hand and look at a vein, and that's what you underpaint first, and then start applying color. And that's exactly what I've done. Exactly. And it has taken a number of glazes to get up to here with color, moving from transparent whites all the way up to literally white with a little bit of titanium whites for the higher highlights. I just finished her lips, etc. last night, and so far so good. I think it's looking fine. She's got a very nice intense stare. It's not really a stare, it's more of a, to me it's more like a statement almost, of like, here I am, take a look at me. That's kind of what the painting says to me, and that's kind of what the reference photo said to me, and frankly I think I basically got her. And that is a wonderful thing, because when you're in a position where you get what you're looking for in terms of a painting, then makes you warm and fuzzy all over. But again, it's fun, and what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm going to be putting some iron oxide down, which is violet iron oxide, to put a base coat in for her hair. Her hair is a dark red, and so that's why I'm using iron oxide. But I'm using iron oxide with a, as I said, with a violet tinge to it to give it a bit more color. And frankly, the reason I'm doing that is because the background to it, holy moly, the background to it is going to be Payne's gray. And in order to get that difference in color, I want to get a red toning so it doesn't fight with the background. So it's going to be a subtle change, but I think you'll like it. And she has her hair pulled back tightly. And we'll see where we go. It's an adventure. And if it isn't an adventure, then it will be, at least I would hope, interesting. I'm putting this down as the base for the hair. And needless to say, I might adjust my sketch a little bit. Now, I haven't quite done the ear yet, and the reason for that is simply that the hair comes over the ear at the very top. So I haven't really done anything for that yet. Because of that. Again, one color playing off another is the reason. And as you can see, as this paint dries fairly quickly, like all acrylics do, you can see the red oxide in it. Now, I'm not going to highlight with this, obviously, but I'm certainly going to put it down first. And I'm being a little careful on the skin lines, simply because I want to get a nice blend in there, and I don't want to look like it's a cutout, so I want to make sure that I get a nice blend, a little blur, which again is pretty easy to do with oil paint, but with acrylic you have to do it a different way. And I hope it's successful, because if not, well, I'll probably cry myself to sleep or something. I don't know. Anyway, just joking. This brush is fine for larger areas, but it definitely isn't the brush I'm going to get into with fine detail. So I'm using it to get the color down, but the corner bits, etc., will be done with a finer brush. Now our hairline comes in here slightly. I'm going to make this lighter, so because I want to just get the sizing right where it's going to be, and we'll come down here. It actually comes down here as well. again, it pulls over the ear, so I want to get an indication of that as I do it. I know, why the hell am I singing Christmas carols? I don't know. Odd, to say the least. Now there's the top of the ear. And the hair actually comes down behind the ear somewhat too, as it's pulled back. I really don't see it after here. And it's a little bit up to here. I want to get this in. Now she does definitely have her hair severely pulled back. So I'm going to have to put a little bit of skin toning in the front of his ear. Now, to get that toned effect along the edge, I'm going to go and blend the top edge of the hair. Bear in mind too, please, this is just the first pass on the hair. This is not the end result. And I can't say enough about the Winsor Newton acrylic paints, professional grade paints that I'm using right now. I'm using also Liquitex, but the reason I'm going on about the Liquitex or the Winsor Newton is that it's they put something into the paint that slows the drying process, and let me tell you, it is amazing. It's lasting twice as long as the Liquitex. Now, I'm sure Liquitex, in his wisdom, will decide to use the same thing in their mixture sooner or later, but let me tell you, when the next tube of paint I buy, I'm buying the Winsor, because really, what a difference it makes. getting it as high as I can. There we go. Alrighty, now all I'm going to do now is apply a little bit of Quin Magenta. Very little. I'm not worried about dropping it on the floor. I'm worried about getting it all over myself. Acrylic paint loves me to death. In other words, if it can find a way to get on me, it will. Without question. It is my lot in life to be covered in paint. So I've mixed some Quin Magenta with some ultramarine, and this is going to give me the tones in the back. Because it gets darker as you go forward. So now that gives me a base, so to speak, to work off of color that is, the toning is correct. I know I go on and on about toning, but there just isn't any two ways about it. You just have to get it right. As if you don't, it just doesn't look right. Now, I placed an awful lot of skin tone up there, and I'm going to have to go back into it because I need to have that transition that our friends like Schwartz and Vermeer would put a scarf on her head. Well, wouldn't that be nice? It would, but that's not the challenge here. So her hair is pulled back, so I'm going to now go into some flesh tone with some. Now for general stuff like this, I normally mix my flesh tone, but if it isn't critical, I don't place as much emphasis on it. Because I can mix it, I can shade it any color I want, frankly, so it doesn't really matter. Here we are again with the extender. Okay. I'm just wondering do I have it up far enough? I'm not 100% sure when I did this sketch that I went far enough up. So you know what? I'm going to put up a little bit of height into it here on top of her head. I think that is much better. And while that dries, I think what I'll do is I'll start putting in some panes on the back to make sure it works. And what I mean by that is simply to make sure that the color works against the dark of the Payne's gray. Now, you might get a bit of reflection off of this, but if you do, it won't last long because this dries completely flat. Saturate the brush. Bring that sucker down right to the edge of this doily collar. And yes, the ones who spotted that are exactly right. They are doilies. It's a take on, it's a modern take on the elaborate collars they wore back in the 16th century. And I think it was very clever the way the guy did it. It looks like it, but it isn't. Now I will admit that I debated putting one of those collars on, but I decided against it because this is not the 16th century painting. The objective here is to do a 21st century painting in the manner of the 16th century. Well, this kind of speaks to it. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. So to those who spotted it, yes, you're quite right. That's exactly what it is. I wasn't going to let the cat out of the bag until some sharp-eyed people on Discord went, "Hey, are those doilies?" Yes, they are. Anyway, a little artist humor there, but not to take things too seriously now. It's da, da, da. Da, 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 da. And thank you to all who have made some positive and nice comments on there. I really appreciate that. And I read them all, and thank you very much. I am certainly grateful. Yes, I'm being a little careful along here, mainly because I don't want to go into the hair. But no, the oxide is showing up beautifully against the paint spray, which is wonderful news. Simply wonderful. I want to drag a little bit into the hairline or the back of the head, so I can highlight it later. I get some of the ridges out of the paint, which is a pain in acrylic because it dries so bloody fast. But be that as it may. Now, for the edge down here, I'm going to go with a bit finer brush, simply because I'm getting closer to the skin tone, and I sure don't want to be dragging a brush over fresh skin tone, because then I'd have to do it all again. And I don't relish that idea, because I'd have to change the entire painting to match all the skin tones again. So I'd rather not. So I'm going to come down to there for now with the panes. the Payne's Gray. Now, if you're not familiar with Payne's Gray is a color that was over the years became so popular with artists they started making it. Prior to them making it, artists always used it for, well, not always, but often used it for black instead of black. And the reason they use it instead of black is because it's very close to black, but it has warm and cool shades in it. So you kind of got the best of both worlds, so to speak. And it's simply, the recipe is very simple. It's ultramarine blue and the sienna, really. That's all there is to it. If you want it a bit darker, you can use burnt sienna if you want. But it's an incredibly versatile color, and it's been used forever. And so obviously the paint manufacturers went, well, I guess we could sell that too, so they did. And the fact that you don't have to mix it up is kind of nice. I know there are people who demand that they mix their own because they want a certain tone or whatever. But I like it because it always gives, when it's out of the tube for a background, it always gives me the same color and consistency. I can change it at will, but I know exactly what's coming out of the tube. Whereas if you're off of just the smallest amount, if you're doing it, if you're mixing it every time, it can change. It's a minute change, but I would probably compare it more to an annoying change, because then you got to sort of chase the color that you mixed up, and I'm glad when it's been around a long time now, but I'm glad when they started making it, because it saves a lot of mixing and remixing, but be honest with you, it's mostly just an artist thing, because if you're looking at it, you may not even realize that the tonal change was there when you do Payne's Gray, but the artist notices it. And if the artist notices it, it drives you crazy. So being the artist drives me crazy. I'm going to put a little snowman here of retarder on top of this here to protect it. So you don't get the reflection. I'm just going to let it dry for a few minutes. Oh, there's a big storm cloud coming in. Okay. I'll move her off a little so you can see her better. There we go. That's a better view. Still a bit wet over here, you can see. Da, da, da. I didn't notice that over there. Just take that out. There we go. There we go. So as you can see, as it dries, it's drying opaque. so it won't hinder the painting in any way. Now she has the slight red color coming off the top of her head. Now I'm going to paint that in. Yes, oops, I'm going to paint it in as soon as I get this off this brush. It's one thing you have to be careful with acrylics is your brushes. If you leave it out, you kill it. You kill it dead. Now, there are some brush restorers out there for a real bad kill that you can salvage a brush, but be honest with you, it's hit and miss. Sometimes you can get away with it, and sometimes you just can't. And that's the way it is. Too much. So I want to get in here. A little bit of skin showing up here. Now I will go back and put hair color back in. This is just getting the edge of the skin on the hair. Now, you might wonder why I didn't do this before. Well, the reason is you almost have to do it. Like, how do you gauge exactly what color and tone you want to do this with? I mean, you might have every intention of doing it exactly the way you want it, but along comes reality, and reality states that no, you're off a bit on your toning. So what happens then? Now you got to go back and change everything, and that's no fun. Especially after you've carefully worked out tones and colors and whatnot. No fun at all. So, in order to not do that, you do it this way. Now, I know there's some people out there who will say, oh, no, you gotta do it. Well, go ahead. Do it any way you want. But that's my advice. If you don't want to get stuck in a fight for the exact right tones at the very beginning and then having to go back, because I'm sorry, but it's just not in the cards. For me, anyway. I'm sure if somebody can do it, hey, great, do it. But I often wonder if people who do that are very strict in their toning. In other words, they don't allow for any changes, or they make up their mind that's the way it's going to be and that's the way it is. And I don't like painting like that, because you might get a better idea. Something else might come along that says, if I did this, it might look even a bit better. And I think is a smarter way to paint, but I'm sure there's other opinions out there. So this is the way I do it. But again, if you have a better way, you go ahead and do it. Nothing will stop you, least of all me. And to quote a famous Scottish artist, "Are you daft, laddie?" No, I'm not. At least I hope not. Are you daft? Somewhere under all of that is a whole bunch of I want to get this up in here as it is catching the light up here. I'm going to put a little bit of shadowing in here again. Okie dokie. Now I'm going to have to move into some of the reds. Now I'm going to try a little experiment. And the experiment is simply I put a few of these in with the skin tone. And it's pretty dark. Lighten it up just a bit. Her hair goes way back. Again, not a problem, because if it gets too much, you can rest assured that I will knock it back. I'm going to do it right here. So you're doing like a positive negative thing here. So the hair is on top of the skin, right? If you catch me drift a lot. And now I bring the hair back into it very finely. Finely, I said, brush. The hallmark of a great artist. Blame your brush. Wasn't me, it was the brush. Yeah, that's what they all say. So what you're shooting for here is got a little too much there. But what you're shooting for is a hair where it meets the scalp meets the skin. That's what you're shooting for. And if you get that, you did good. Really, really good. And be careful you don't make it look like a picket fence either. Like I said, wearing paint is my life. Okay, so onward and upward. So I want to get tone in there. Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place that you know. Oh, God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Oh. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place that you know. Oh, God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Da, 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 da. Oh, come on. Bust your mighty hide, aye, laddie. And we'll put a little bit of this into here. Darken it down a little bit. She please, Mrs. Robinson. You please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for you. Oh, oh, oh. Mm-hmm. Da, 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 da. And I kind of think I'm going to have to go a little higher up there, which I will do. Here's to you, Maggio. For you. And here's to you, Joe Maggio. Heaven holds a place where you belong. No, no. Da 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 And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Now I'm using some crimson, and no, nobody has hair the color of crimson that I'm aware of anyway. But it's a little artist trick in order to show a little color, and the reason you do it is because you it allows you to people, when they look at the picture, their eye sees a color and gets and it screams, oh, red hair to them. And it works. The best example of that I think I could probably give you would be an American artist. I can't believe it. I'm telling you this, and as I'm telling you, his name falls out of my head. Oh, God. Anyway, the painting is of a guy, a black guy, on a on a broken down boat, adrift in choppy, shark infested waters. And what? I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. It'll come to me. Anyway, in the waves, if you ever look at that painting, you'll see in the waves, he put tons of little sprigs of red all through the painting, all through the water. And you wonder, like, what the hell are you doing that for? Well, I know why he did it. Because it sure worked. And if memory serves me correct, way back when I was studying this artist that remains nameless, there was a bit of a go-between him and either the gallery owner, saying, "What's the red in the water? Because there's sharks all around, whatever." He said, "Exactly." And they went, "We don't get it." And they went, "Well, you're not supposed to get it." But everybody looked at the painting, got it. You don't see the red. What you see is menace, because there's sharks, and the guy's in a boat, and he's adrift in the Atlantic, or Gulf of Mexico, or somewhere. And people see sharks. Yeah, okay, you understand sharks. But you see red in the water, then it immediately spells trouble. With a capital T, trouble. And that's why he did it. And they actually asked him to take it out, and he said, "No, I'm not taking it out. It's planned. That's the whole idea. You're telling me how I don't know how to plan a painting? Is that what you're saying?" So anyway, he won. He won the argument, and it's now a masterpiece of 19th century or 18th century, no, 19th century artwork, American artwork. And he was quite right. What makes the painting is that you don't know why you feel the menace and the danger, but when you look at the painting, it just screams, "Danger, Will Robinson, danger!" And that's why. And it's the same idea. The exact same idea. Da, 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 da. And thank God those guys stuck by their guns, because ultimately that's what great painting was about, right? Like, painting went through a time when it was very structured. I mean, it had to be, part of an established modicum. And unfortunately, and don't take this as a slam against Bob Ross, but that's kind of what happened to art. And it took some real pioneering spirit to get out of that. The Pre-Raphaelites kind of started all that. And they and thank God they did, because there's thousands of those paintings around, like 19th century stuff that you know, variations on a theme, really. The only innovation I can really think of that came down was the Hudson School, whereby they changed the way perspective was looked at. But outside of that, it was a wasteland. I just want to put a couple of little strands of white in for errant strands of hair. You chose a magic. And here's to you, Joe DiMaggio. Place for you. Oh. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That's what I didn't want. No, no, didn't want that. Didn't want. Hey, hey, hey. Da, 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 and here's to you, Joe DiMaggio. God bless you, please, Joe. Every old place you know. Oh, oh. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Hey. So I glaze a little color into here. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? God bless you, please. Mrs. Robinson. Hey, Protez, how are you doing? I'm sorry I didn't see you there. I'm doing fine tonight, my man. My girl, my man. I don't know if you're a man or a girl. But anyway, I'm doing fine. Painting's coming along okay. I'm getting the tones in I want. And things are good. Oh, please. So it is now time to work on the ear. Yes, folks, without further ado, now the chickens come home to roost, so to speak. And we'll see. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus, no. Oh, no. Da 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 da. God bless you, please. Sorry if I didn't see you there, Protez, until now, but if you're still there, I'm doing great, and I hope you are too. I hope all is well. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Oh man, why did I do that? Oh, it's dark, I know. Sometimes, when you least expect it, so that is way, way too dark. And she has a cleft here in her ear. Joe DiMaggio. Oh, God bless you, please. I know you're in there, White. Come out, come out, come out wherever you are. Because, man, why? I'm not having any luck at all here. So I'll bury that a little. God bless you, please. Please for you, no. Oh, God bless you, please. Da, ooh, ooh. Dun, 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 dun. Bless you, please. Ah, I'm a Norwegian. Oh, yeah, I remember you. How you doing? Oh, yeah, exactly. It must be, what, 3 o'clock in the morning or something back where you are. Yeah, I remember. Sure. I forgot the name until you mentioned Norway. The reason I remember so well is my Art Galaxy Tech. His wife is a Norwegian extraction. So all things Norway are dear. And it's a great country. Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's been a while for Black Panther. God, I don't remember how many paintings back that was. That was a while ago, man. A while ago. But I remember. I remember. I was watching a program that took place in Norway. I don't remember the name. It was on Netflix, but what a great movie industry you got there. I like it because most of the stuff compared to the stuff that comes out here, it's not so much crap. You know, like you seem to have a thriving industry. I first got turned on to Scandinavian TV a few years ago, and I was watching a program, a series from Norway, and I thought, what a cool country. I also taught a guy one time who worked for a tech company, and he had been in Norway for about 3 years, and he loved Norway. He told me everything he knew about it. What he liked about it, I think the most, was that was the climate, and he liked the idea that the sun stayed up so long. I don't know, to be honest with you, if that would appeal to me as much, but who knows? I've never been there. Never. But one day I'd certainly like to. Now that Canadians are shying away from traveling in the States, I think countries in Europe are really going to see a boom, especially from Canadian tourists anyway. A lot of people don't want to go down to the States anymore. And that's too bad, because, you know, they're our closest neighbor. But I think what's happened is they're scared to death to go down there. Every little horror story you hear, right? So, not so much a horror story, but like hassles and border stuff. Especially for people like my age, because I remember when we used to go across the border, you just flash your license at the guy at the border, and away you were. It was just, it was like that for years and years. Now, God Almighty, who needs it? I know I was talking to somebody I know about the border states, the Canadian the states that border Canada, and they rely on Canadian shoppers. And man, they are hurting, which is really too bad, because we used to go down there all the time. But again, even I don't want to go, which is weird, because I'm pretty much a traveling type of person. But it's just too crazy. Which I gotta admit is sad, because I have lots of American friends. I mean, once you get there, it's okay. But it's the hassle. Like, holy Jesus. And every time you say something, they go, well, how do we know if you're not a terrorist? Oh, God, please. You can't tell me that they know everything about me from my debit card, that you don't know who the hell I am. Right down to facial ID. Come on. So what's the hassle? But no. What finally did me in was, my wife is British, Scottish actually, and she now has to get a visa to go into the U.S. So I said, you know what? I got a better idea. How about we just don't go? And the trouble is, I think that a lot of Canadians are doing that. It's not worth it. I know some people in Vancouver who used to go down like every weekend down to Seattle. Have completely stopped going. There's people I know there. No. So, and I guess it's okay if you don't rely on tourism or any bucks coming out of Canada. I guess it doesn't really matter. But if you're a border state and you rely on Canadian dollars coming into the country all the time, Jesus, it's going to cost jobs and all that stuff, So, I'm just doing a few little odds and ends here. And then I shall start very shortly on the doilies. God bless you, please. Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for you. Oh. Mm-hmm. Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus holds the place for you. Oh, God bless you, Mrs. Robinson. Yeah, I think you would enjoy the springtime, maybe close to summer. It's not too hot, but like the sunny. How far north you are, yeah. The more north you are, the sun stays up. For example, if you go to Tomaso City up in north, you can have the sun. Yeah, well, it's the same in Canada. If you go to Nunavut, same thing. Sun never sets. Or the Yukon. It's, hell, you didn't even have to go that far north, I don't think. Up to Churchill or something. Or Moosonee, which was the headquarters for the Hudson's Bay Company for many, many years. You can't drive there, though. You only can take a train. I don't know if you have muskeg in Norway, but we have it here. Muskeg is soft, like clay that it's like quicksand, and it's great because it's part of the tundra in the wintertime. But in the summertime, I remember when I was a kid, they were building the railroad up to Moosonee. You used to only be able to fly in, but they built a railway, and they only built in the wintertime. And they left their heavy equipment up in the middle of nowhere. And when they went back in the fall, when it gets frozen again, all their equipment had disappeared. And they thought, oh my God, how could anybody take our equipment? Until they found out these gigantic bulldozers and tractors had actually sunk right into the muskeg over the course of the summer. So somewhere up there, there's a brand new tractor sitting encased in muskeg. I don't know if you have that up there. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But if you do, you know what I'm talking about. It's bloody. I'm going to do a little artistic trick here. I'm going to fire in some diox into the Payne's Gray. And the reason I'm doing this is to get down this side, but make it a slightly different color. Diox straight is very, very purple. Well, it's called Diox purple, I guess. But it makes a really nice background if you want to use it for that. But what I'd like to do maybe is just change up the I'm not going to draw in or paint in a dress or a gown or anything like that. So the idea behind this is simply that instead of doing that, I'm just going to change the color and let the person decide whether or not they're just wearing a black outfit or whatever, who sees this painting. But I am getting very behind on my artwork, I must admit. I have an American buyer who I supply with artwork, who's been not driving me crazy, who's been emailing me, when's the next shipment coming? Oh, it's coming when I get it done. But he's right, because I'm behind schedule. And how I got so far behind schedule, I really don't know. I'm rarely behind schedule. But lately, ever since the like February, I've just got bang on behind. And it's not because I've been too busy. I don't know what the hell's going on. Mind you, I'm teaching more than I ever taught before. Well, than I had planned on teaching. That is true. So there's that. Because I do a lot of teaching. So, well, I don't mean a lot. I am. But I have a cadre of students. And when I came back from Belize, called me and said, yes, well, you're back. We have lessons? Yes. Well, how do you say no, you know, because you got a guilt trip going on. Because, you know, well, you brought me up to that point, and now I've sort of mastered it, but I want to get to the next level. Yep, I don't blame them. Because I had left all my students when I left for Belize with a good art teacher, but they only, what I didn't think about was, well, I thought about it, but I didn't think it would be that big a deal. But they only taught watercolor. So the problem is that there's not a lot of people who teach these techniques, and I heard it when I got back. Yeah, well, there's no place to go. Like, what do you want us to do? Like, you know, like, sure enough. I mean, you can't say, or else they're so outrageously priced. I mean, and also too, the students who are now in university and art courses and whatnot, and they're calling me and saying, they're not teaching me this and that and this and that. Well, what do so then I looked into it, and Jesus, they're right. What the hell's going on? Then I looked into it further and I found out, but Jesus, I don't know. I had one of my students today say to me that when they go into school, they're given a tablet and all this stuff, right? And she said to me, the truth of the matter is, what we really want is not the tablets. We want the books, the actual books. And I said, well, can't you just buy the books? And they went, no. That was a big surprise to me. You couldn't buy the books. If you can't buy the books, that's a real problem. I admit. No two ways about it. Well, that's about it for tonight, because that's as far as I'm going until I start getting into the doily thingy. Just getting these brushes cleaned up. But yeah, that is kind of, I'd never heard that before. Well, I haven't asked it before, but I hadn't heard it. And I guess she's right. I mean, kind of sucks. Okay, well, pokeroos. I don't think I have enough paint left to do that with shadow in there. Oh well, that's okay. We're going to get that done and that done, and the shadow there. But so far, she's looking good. You know, I get the doilies in. And that pearl earring, I gotta make sure I do that exactly right. It's very dark back there. Maybe I should have put some more dark that way. But I like the look. I really do. I like the look. I like the expression she's got, which is kind of... Who, me? God damn it, there's something I didn't do. Okay. Damn, okay. I'll go to bed thinking about this tonight, so I don't want to do that. There we go. Oh yeah, and just a hint of a dimple over here. Just the hint. Anyway, thank you, my Norwegian friend, for coming along, and thanks everybody who's watched, and we shall see you again. hopefully tomorrow night. If not, Monday for sure. Talk to you soon.